At Hitachi Next 2019, Paul Lewis, Global VP and CTO of Hitachi Vantara, gave me a personal tour of their solution showcase.
Your own personal tour, isn't this awesome? So it starts here. It starts with Hitachi powering good. We think of Hitachi as this big conglomerate of company that creates a whole bunch of machines. Well, what we do spend most of our time on is social innovation, right? We think about how we're impacting society, how we're impacting the environment, how we're impacting the economy. We want to match making things better in the world with making things. So part of the powering good is this interaction between IT and OT, the physical world and the digital world. And you'll see 40 to 50 LiDAR detectors up in the sky. It's constantly watching us through this entire showcase. It's going to watch where we are on the booth. It's going to watch how long we stay there. It's going to watch when we go to the snack stations. And it's going to let us know via visual means in the middle on where we should be spending our time or where we might have missed. It's interacting those two worlds. When we come to the showcase, we always start with our ecosystem. We start at our partnerships, and this is where we are now. These are the sponsors and partnerships of the Hitachi Vantara Showcase, including our premier sponsor, Intel. These are the partners that deliver on the ecosystem of value. It might be talent, it might be information, it might be technology, but one can't do it alone. You can't do it alone as a client, you can't do it alone as Hitachi Vantara. We must all work together to solve the complex digital transformation program. So we started with ecosystem. Next step is outcome. We don't start at the bottom. We don't talk about the tools. We talk about actually providing that value, providing those KPIs to businesses. So we start with our entire industry solutions. This is where we solve an industry problem. It's not an ERP, but it's a discrete, specific industry problem using the platforms you'd need in an IoT world. When you look here, we start with smart life. That's about thinking about interaction with stadiums and physical places. It's about looking at individual people and where they walk, the safety and security concerns, capacity management concerns. We then move on to manufacturing, where we can look at individual plants, full production lines, to look at the quality and behavior of the machines themselves. Then we can look at things like maintenance insights, where we look at the individual machine to see if we can predict what might happen in the future to those sensors, the machine itself. How can we fix it before it becomes a problem? We then move on to Lumada Edge Intelligence. This is where I'm thinking about the actual edge themselves, the actual sensors, the physical machines that I have to both collect data from and perform analytics on. Think of IoT as more of a federated approach. It's not about collecting data from the edge and doing analytics. It's about doing analytics where the actual edge exists, because sometimes it just produces too much data. I can't physically move petabytes of information to a core, so I've got to think about spreading that wealth. Then we move on to the big vertical stuff, healthcare, media and entertainment, financial services, and what we can do in the individual line of businesses, from compliance to marketing to the networks to hospitals. How can we solve individual unique problems, personas in those environments? How can we help a chief radiologist? How can we help a chief compliance officer? How do we engage those KPIs? So we talked about the ecosystem, we talked about the outcomes. Now we've got to start to think about that data. Think of DataOps as a means to implement your digital transformation, right? It's elevating the value of data to be greater than, or at least as important as, the applications and infrastructure. You've got to think of DataOps as reducing the friction of ensuring you can create a data visualization or data insight. Right now there's purposeful friction, right? We have the appropriate governance, we have the appropriate compliance, we have the change management, we have the release management, all good things, because the last thing you want to do is change the ATMs in the middle of the day. But that's maybe too much friction. What if I want to do things in real time? What if I wanted to see information outside of the organization? What if I didn't want to wait 24 hours for a refresh on a dashboard? What if I just wanted to see it and use it and create science out of it? That's DataOps. How do we take enterprise information management and add agility and add automation? This is a suite of technologies to support that. How do we create a parallel environment to look at orchestration, look at integration, look at visualization as a parallel means to your EIM program? So this is our center of excellence, what we refer to as our masters of a portfolio. This is the team that works with individual clients on each of our individual solution sets to deploy them in their environment, to test them out, to see if it works to solve their problems. It's a team of professionals around the world to help with the individual appreciation and understanding of our portfolio. So a new conversation starting today is the Lumada Data Services. It's taking DataOps to the new level. It's thinking about data in terms of series of microservices to implement that orchestration. I kind of think of it as a means to think of a data lake differently. Data lake has always been that Hadoop cluster, but that doesn't solve all your problems. You have to think of data as a series of objects that have an associated set of metadata. I have to orchestrate that within a Hadoop cluster, in a object store, and in the cloud. I need to govern that. I need to create visualizations based on all the different varieties of potential data. This is what Lumada Data Services drives for you. So we started with the ecosystem, we went to the outcomes, we talked about the data, the next is the edge to the cloud infrastructure. And more importantly, we'll talk about the cloud services. Think of this as your application management portfolio. I have to migrate and modernize thousands of applications to make it work in a different economic environment that tends to be the cloud. So we have a series of services and a cloud acceleration platform to allow you to look at each of your individual applications, determine if you have to rewrite or recreate in a new cloud environment. And even more importantly, because that multi-cloud world is complex, we also help you manage those applications in that environment. The big announcement this morning was the new VSP 5000, our new enterprise-grade system, both storage and unified deployment. What's awesome about this environment, it is twice as fast and 8 times the capacity as any other product in the market, up to 69 petabytes of scale. Of course, storage is only one part of the story. In order to run those awesome applications and that data integration insight you're creating with DataOps, one has to think about the edge, one has to think about the data center, one has to think about our clients, one has to think about our suppliers, one has to think about the cloud. That's where the edge data infrastructure is placed. We think about how we can deploy thousands of different types of applications and different types of converged deployments. It might be a small, unique appliance at the edge, or it might be a very complex converged appliance for SAP or Oracle. This is where we can drive those solutions with our converged infrastructure set. We talked ecosystem, we talked outcomes, we talked data, we talked infrastructure, and now we talk about bringing together as a research. So when we want to include Hitachi Limited with Hitachi Vantara, we bring it all together in what we refer to as social innovation, the double bottom line. How do we improve shareholder value at the same time making people's lives better? So there's a whole section here about Hitachi Research where we spend $4.5 billion every year to invent something new. So you see quantum computing, you see finger vein, you see all the research that goes into all the 803 brands to consume that interesting technology to create innovation in the rest of the organization. So we're back to powering good. And we just walked through the entire showcase. I talked about the LiDAR sensing us walking, sensing where we stopped and how long we stopped. Well, here's the visualization of that output. We can look at each one of these screens to show you where we stopped, where we spent time, where we talked and saw individual demos, where we might have sat for a snack and conversed with a network with peers. This is where we can see that visualization in real time, connecting the digital and physical world together. All of this is powering good. So this is an example of the visualization of the IT and OT, where we're taking the LiDAR data and creating a visitor engagement index. You can see different sections of the showcase. Every individual person that's walking around. We can see how long they're spending, how many visitors were there, and then you can actually watch their travels through the entire showcase. This is what the LiDAR actually sees. And we don't have, we haven't turned on the function, but if you were turn on the function to watch the trail, you'd actually see the green people in their entire path. I'd see a red path to say, okay, I can see exactly where in the carpet. Well, I can see the whole crowd. I can see exactly where most people are walking. And you'll say, hey, there's a whole section here that nobody's got to, maybe because there's no booth, or it's too big of a red, therefore we have to think about dispersing the content there. Send out another cashier. Or you're in an airport and you're noticing that most people walk by this particular section, yet there's no store there. Imagine if there was a store there, they would consume more product and therefore you get more rent. Right?
Thank you so much, Paul.